In the long, silent shadow of the highlands, where mist hugs the hills and black water runs deep, there lies a story that shaped the world's most enduring mystery. Not a story of a monster at first, but of a man. His name was Alex Campbell, water bailiff, writer, and in many ways, the father of Nessie. Campbell lived in the village of Fort Augustus, near the shores of Loch Ness. He served as the official water bailiff for the loch, patrolling its banks, protecting the salmon, knowing every current and ripple like the back of his hand. But Campbell wasn't just a man of the water, he also had a way with words. As the local correspondent for the Inverness Courier, he wrote about village life, fishing, and local happenings. It was in May of 1933 that one of those happenings would ripple out across the globe. On May the 2nd, Campbell published an article in the Inverness Courier that would change everything. It told the story of Aldie Mackay, who had been driving along the loch with her husband when she saw a great disturbance in the water. Waves crashing, something large thrashing just beneath the surface. But it was Campbell, not Mackay, who added a single phrase that would spark a legend. He wrote, "There, the creature disported itself, rolling and plunging for fully a minute, its body resembling that of a whale, and the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon, however, it disappeared in a boiling mass of foam." Both onlookers confessed that there was something uncanny about the whole thing, for they realized that here was no ordinary denizen of the depths, because, apart from its enormous size, the beast, in taking the final plunge, sent out waves that were big enough to have been caused by a passing steamer. Soon, the story was being printed in papers all across Britain and beyond. What had once been whispers on the shore became headlines. It was Alex Campbell who gave the world Nessie, and it's rumoured that his editor Evan Barron coined the term monster. But Campbell wasn't just a storyteller, he was also a witness. In fact, he would later claim to have seen the creature at least 18 times during his life. One of those sightings, his first, came in 1933, shortly after reporting the Mackay's story. In his own words, he described what he saw while walking along the loch one still morning. Letter dated 28th to October 1933. One day early last month, September 7th, 1933, at about 9:30 in the morning, I was watching this end of the loch. The light was very uncertain, there being a fairly thick haze on the water, and along with this, the sun was shining directly in my eye through the mist, making the visibility very bad. I had not been watching for more than a minute before I noticed a strange object on the surface, about 600 yards from where I stood. It seemed to be about 30 feet long, and what I took to be the head was fully 5 feet above the surface of the loch. The creature, if such it was, and at the time I felt certain of it, seemed to be watching two drifters passing out of the canal and into Loch Ness. And whether it was due to imagination or not, I could have sworn that it kept turning its head and also its body very quickly, in much the same way as a cormorant does on rising to the surface. I saw this for fully a minute, then the object vanished as if it had sunk out of sight. But later, Campbell would go on to say, "Last Friday I was watching the loch at the same place and about the same time of day. The weather was almost identical, practically calm, and the sun shining through a hazy kind of mist. In a short time, something very like what I have described came into my line of vision, and at roughly the same distance from where I stood. But the light was improving all the time, and in a matter of seconds, I discovered that what I took to be the monster was nothing more than a few cormorants, and what seemed to be the head was a cormorant standing in the water and flapping its wings as they often do. The other cormorants, which were strung out in a line behind the leading bird, looked in the poor light and at first glance just like the body or humps of the monster, as it has been described by various witnesses. But the most important thing was that owing to the uncertain light, the bodies were magnified out of all proportion to their proper size. This mirage-like effect I have often seen on Loch Ness, although not exactly in the same form as I have just described. Other people who know the loch can verify my statement as to the mirage, but it only occurs under certain conditions and if the loch is calm. Then it gives every object from, say, a gull or a bottle to an empty barrel a very grotesque appearance, provided that such objects are far enough away from the observer. He would later describe other sightings of a long neck, like a swan, of several humps moving in a line, of the water disturbed with unnatural strength. But he was careful in how he spoke. Though he believed, he never claimed more than what he saw. And when people scoffed at the idea, he replied simply, "What I saw was no fish, no seal, no driftwood. It was alive, and it was big." Campbell became a trusted voice on the loch. Locals brought him stories. Tourists asked for his thoughts. And investigators leaned on him for insights. He kept meticulous records of sightings, many of which later became the foundation for scientific and journalistic interest in the phenomenon. Yet for all his experience and belief, he never once captured a photo. Some said that made his claims weaker. Others believed it made them more honest. He wasn't trying to prove anything, just telling the truth as he saw it. Alex Campbell passed away in June 1983, but his influence still lingers like the mist on the loch. Without him, the story of the Loch Ness Monster might have remained a local tale, whispered in Highland kitchens. Instead, it became a worldwide mystery, thanks to a man who walked the shores, kept a quiet watch, and told the world what he saw. So the next time you look across those deep, dark waters, spare a thought for the man who gave Nessie her name.